Welcome to the Frequency Shift with Alexis Gallagher and Susan Elliott. We are still studying Wallace, or not Wallace Wattles, it's Joseph Murphy's The Science of Getting Rich, or the science of
That was our last
the power of
book,
your
if in case you
subconscious
missed
mind.
it.
Sorry. Okay. And so let me get on track here. So the chapter 6, it's the title is Practical Techniques in Mental Healing. And so these chapters are where he puts all of this information into practical use instead of just philosophy, and shows where your subconscious actually responds to thoughts of what you feed it and how you feel about it. And he talks about how it shapes your health and your success and your entire life. And he teaches that the subconscious, it doesn't argue or analyze, it simply accepts exactly what you put in there. So again, we emphasize that it's so important to know what you're putting in at any time. And like a lot of great teachers say, that 95% of your actions daily are based on the subconscious. So it's already programmed in there. And basically, we're trying to reprogram it.
Yep, rewrite the script for bigger and better.
So he says in the chapter 6 is it's practical techniques and mental healings. He says if you want your prayers to be answered, you must start with the proper techniques and methods. The way in which your prayer is answered is a scientific way. Nothing happens by chance. This is a world of order and laws. In this chapter, you'll find practical techniques for the unfolding and nurturing of your spiritual life. Your prayers must not remain in the air like a balloon. They must go somewhere and accomplish something in your life. And he says, when we analyze prayer, we discover there are many different approaches and methods. We will not consider in this book the formal ritual prayers used in religious services. These have an important place in group worship, but that is not our focus here. We're immediately concerned with the effective methods of personal prayer that can be applied in your daily life and used to help yourself and others. So that's it's just so important to, I used to hear Bob talk about how you say prayers and it's your way. You say prayers to talk to God, but your intuition is God talking back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I repeat, basically your thoughts is a prayer, your affirmation is a prayer. That's why every single thought you think, if you're thinking lack and limitation, it's like saying a prayer, especially if you're doing it with feeling.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's really good.
Your subconscious will accept your blueprint. If you're building a new home for yourself and your family, you would take an intense interest in the blueprint for your home. You would make sure that the builders followed your blueprint to the last detail. You would keep watch over the materials, and you would know that the future life of your home depends on the quality of the materials and that were used to construct it. And you would only use the best cement, the best insulation, the best wiring, roofing, and so on. Does it not make sense to take the same care with your mental home and your mental blueprint for happiness and abundance? All your experiences and everything that enters into your life depend upon the nature of the mental building blocks that you use in the construction of your mental home. If your blueprint is full of mental patterns of fear, worry, anxiety, or lack, and if you're despondent, doubtful, and cynical, then the quality of your mental materials you're installing in your mind will come forth as more toil, care, tension, anxiety, and limitation of all kind. So again, so what you could ask yourself, this is a good question to ask yourself, is when you are spending money, you're purchasing something, how do you feel about it? Are you feeling lack and limitation? You're thinking, oh no, I have to really watch my budget because scarcity. Or are you saying, you know what, there's more abundance to come? And it says right on our currency, it says in God we trust. So
Hmm.
in God we trust, you can start saying that and thinking that when you spend your money. In God we trust. If it must flow freely. And that's what another great teacher teaches is talking about abundance is everywhere. And when we feel lack and limitation, we're just feeding our mind negativity.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's a lot of people will just talk about that out and about too in public, or if you're, customer service, and it's like you have to just learn to switch the subject from that because the masses aren't aware either, but you're here and you're learning it, so that's great.
Yes, yes. And so he goes on to science. He talks about how the art of true prayer is science. He says the term science means a body of knowledge that is coordinated, arranged, and systematized. Let us think more closely about the science and art of true prayer. This body of knowledge deals with the fundamental principles of life. It describes techniques and processes that can be demonstrated in your life and in the life of any human being who applies them faithfully. The art is your technique or process, and the science behind it is a definite response of creative mind to your mental picture and your thought. He says you must ask in your prayer, you must ask believing if you are to receive. So you're already believing it, or you're not going to receive it. Your mind moves from the thought to the thing. Unless there is first an image in the mind, it cannot move, for there would be nothing for it to move toward. Your prayer, which is your mental act, must be accepted as an image in your mind before the power from your subconscious will play upon it and make it productive. You must reach a point of acceptance in your mind, an unqualified and undisputed state of agreement. So you have to live from it already being done. How would you feel if it's already done, your goal's already achieved, you already have the house? Well, how does it feel to live in that house? And a lot of people say, well, I don't know how it feels. Well, that's what your imagination is for, is you already are in that house. How do you feel? Well, I feel fabulous. I feel great. Another great teacher or mentor says part of our job is to feel good, to feel great all the time, because that is going to keep attracting it to you. And being grateful all the time for what you do have puts you in the place of receivership.
Yeah, that's great. That's powerful.
The visualization technique, the easiest and most obvious way to formulate an idea is to visualize it, to see it in your mind's eye as vividly as if it were alive. You can see with the naked eye only what already exists in the external world. In a similar way, that which you can visualize in your mind's eye already exists in the invisible realms of your mind. Any picture you have in your mind is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. What you form in your imagination is as real as any part of your body. The idea and the thought are real and will one day appear in your objective world if you're faithful to your mental image. And so what he's talking about there is exactly what Proctor Gallagher Institution teaches, is that there's a picture of your it's not really your mind, but it's an illustration to help you understand. If you have a circle and you treat the top half as the conscious mind and the bottom as the subconscious, Bob would put in a diagram that No matter what you put in the subconscious, it has to accept it. It's deductive thinking. So if you believe it, it accepts it. It doesn't argue with it and say, "Oh, this isn't true," or "This isn't real." It just accepts it and manifests it. And so he goes on talking about mental movie method, the method in your mind, playing mental movies. One area in which the mental movie method seems especially useful is selling property. If you have a home or property for sale, I suggest you first satisfy yourself in your own mind that your price is right and fair to both you and the eventual buyer. After having done this, quiet your mind, relax, let go, and get into a drowsy, sleepy state that reduces all mental effort to a minimum. Now picture the check in your hands, rejoice in the check, give thanks for the check, and go off to sleep, feeling the naturalness of the whole mental movie created in your mind. So it's just natural. It's a state that we were born to live in, is a natural state of abundance. And abundance is everywhere in nature. But it is important to do it in a sleepy state. I have a diagram of brainwave, and I believe the sleepy, relaxed state that you want to be in is either alpha or theta. And it's right before you're going off to sleep. And that's when your subconscious is really receptive. That's why they
Mm-hmm.
always say to do these affirmations. They're very powerful right before sleep and right after you wake up. And so he goes on into how he did, what his experience was in different areas all over the world, and how he worked with people and helped them manifest, their goals. And a lot of it was, so miraculous, the way that people were healed, physically or mentally. He says right here, he was talking to a woman in Los Angeles, and what she did every night for 10 nights, she sat in an armchair, systematically relaxed her body, and entered into a sleepy state. Once in the sleepy state, she affirmed slowly, quietly, and feelingly the statement, "It is finished," in divine order, over and over again. She found herself achieving a sense of inner peace and an all-pervading tranquility. Then she went off to sleep, normal sleep. On the morning of the 11th day, she woke up with a sense of well-being and conviction that it was indeed finished. Her attorney called her that same day. The opposing attorney and the clients were willing to settle. So it was actually between a dispute between she and her family, over an estate. And she was worried about it. And so then she practiced this, affirmation, and everything worked out perfectly well for her. So he goes on, he's talking about, another technique that he helped people with. It was called the thank you technique. And he says, in the Bible, Paul commends that we make known our requests with praise and thanksgiving. So we're already saying praise and thanksgiving before it even happens. Some extraordinary results follow this simple method of prayer. The thankful heart is always close to the creative forces of the universe, causing countless blessings to flow toward it by the law of reciprocal relationship, based on cosmic law of action and reaction. He says, recently a young mother told me of her experience with this technique. She said, "I was out of work and broke with 3 small children to feed and clothe. I didn't know where to turn. Then I heard you explain that we should be thankful even before our prayers are answered. If it was as if a light had gone on in my mind. I knew I had to try it. Every night and morning for 3 weeks, a woman repeated, 'Thank you, Father, for my wealth.' She did this in a relaxed, peaceful manner and continued with a feeling of mood of thankfulness dominated her mind. She imagined she was addressing the infinite power and intelligence within through though she knew, of course, that she would not literally see the creative intelligence or the infinite mind. She was seeing with the inner eye of spiritual perception, realizing her thought image of wealth was the first cause relative to the money, position, and food she needed. Her thought feeling was the substance of wealth, untrammeled by antecedent conditions of any kind. And so she kept repeating that over and over. And she said that she was in a thankful attitude and she reconditioned her mind. So her prayer had an interesting sequel. Shortly after she began the prayer, she met a former employer and on the street that she hadn't even seen for 5 years, and the employer offered her a job, and he advanced her like a temporary loan until she got her first paycheck. So she said, "Thank you, Father, that technique worked wonders for her," which that's amazing and miraculous. It's wonderful. It really does work.
It
So
does. Yeah. I've used it myself, so it's
yes.
amazing.
So he goes on in this one and he says, or he goes on in this chapter and he says, it is abnormal to be sick. It is normal to be healthy. Health
Mhm.
is the truth of your being. When you affirm health, harmony, and peace for yourself and another, and when you realize these are universal principles of your own being, you rearrange the negative patterns of your subconscious mind based on your faith and understanding of what you affirm. The result of the affirmative process of prayer depends on confirming to the principles of life, regardless of appearance. Consider for a moment there is a principle of mathematics, but none of error. There is a principle of truth, but none of dishonesty. There is a principle of intelligence, but none of ignorance. There is a principle of harmony, but none of discord. There is a principle law of health, but none of disease. There is a principle of abundance, but none of poverty. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that true?
It is, yeah.
Bob always says the truth, you resonate with it. And some of these principles and ideas, sometimes we never even think about it. I mean, years ago when I first started studying, I never even thought about that. I never thought there is a principle of harmony and none of disease.
Right.
It never
Yeah,
even
it's true.
crossed my mind.
We're not taught it in school, you know? And most of us grew up in culture or homes that just don't know better and we don't learn it. But now
That's
we get to.
yes. So then he just, in this chapter, he goes on about how he helped other people manifest health and other, not just health, but other healings in their life. Um, and so he goes on with that, different methods that he used. So on to chapter 7, it says the tendency of the subconscious mind is life word. And so he says more than 90% of your mental life is subconscious. If you fail to make use of the marvelous power, you condemn yourself to live within very narrow limits. Your subconscious processes are always life word and constructive. Your subconscious is the builder of your body and maintains all its vital functions. It is on the job 24 hours a day and it never sleeps. It's always trying to help and preserve you from harm. Your subconscious mind is in touch with infinite life and boundless wisdom, and its impulses and ideas are always life word. The great aspirations, inspirations, and visions for a grander, nobler life spring from subconscious. Your profoundest convictions are those you cannot argue about rationally because they do not come from your conscious mind, they come from your subconscious mind. So, and I've mentioned this before, but I mean, it just hits home. Joe Dispenza, how he healed himself and how basically Joe was in a triathlon back in the 80s and he got hit by a car and run over when he was in the bike phase of the triathlon,
Wow.
and it crushed his back.
Mm.
And doctors all said, "Oh, you have to have surgery," and he never had surgery.
Wow.
Now he's walking and he's fine, but he went through a lot of pain. He went through a lot of meditation to get to this place. But that's a good example.
Yeah, that's an amazing example.
So Joseph Murphy goes on, he says, great artists, musicians, poets, speakers, and writers tune in with their subconscious powers and become animated and inspired. Robert Louis Stevenson, before he went to sleep, used to charge his subconscious with the task of evolving stories while he slept. He was accustomed to ask his subconscious to give him a good, remarkable thriller whenever his bank account was low. Stevenson said the intelligence of his deeper mind gave him the story piece by piece like a serial. This shows how your subconscious will speak loftily and wise sayings through you that your conscious mind knows nothing about. And that reminds me, in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, he he demanded his subconscious to do things right before he went to sleep. For example, he didn't have a title to the book Think and Grow Rich, and he actually said, I demand you to give me a title right before he went to sleep. And he woke up, I think, if I remember right, in the middle of the night with the title in his mind.
Wow. It's a great reminder. And Van Gogh did it too with his paintings. Yeah, and he says it. He says, I dream my paintings and then I paint my dreams.
Exactly. How humans interfere with the innate principle. So to think correctly, scientifically, we must know the truth. As the ancient saying puts it, ye shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. To know the truth is to be in harmony with the infinite intelligence and power of your subconscious mind, which is always moving life forward. Every thought or action that is not harmonious, whether through ignorance or design, will result in discord and limitation of all kind. Scientists inform us that you build a new body every 11 months. So, from a physical standpoint, you are really only 11 months old. If you build defects back into your body by thoughts of fear, anger, jealousy, and ill will, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Hmm.
That's amazing. You are the sum of your thoughts. You can keep from entertaining negative thoughts and imagery. So, that's just unbelievably remarkable. And so onward to the last part of this chapter, he says how faith in your subconscious makes you whole. And he's talking about a young man that had severe eye trouble, and he came to his lectures, and his ophthalmologist told him he would have to have a surgery. And after the young man learned about this, he started saying, my subconscious mind, basically your subconscious mind made you. He made his eyes. So if he made his eyes, then he can heal his eyes. Every night, as he went to sleep, he entered into a drowsy and meditative state, the condition akin to sleep. His attention was immobilized and focused on the eye doctor. He imagined the doctor was in front of him and had plainly heard or imagined him heard the doctor say, a miracle has happened. He heard him over and over every night for 5 minutes as he was going to sleep. 3 weeks later, he had another eye appointment with the ophthalmologist who examined his eyes, and the physician examined him again, then exclaimed, this is a miracle. What had happened? The man impressed his subconscious mind using the eye doctor as an instrument or means of convincing it and conveying the idea. Through repetition, faith, and expectancy, he impregnated his subconscious mind. His subconscious mind had made his eye. It held within it the pattern, perfect, and blueprint for a normal eye, or eye's normal healthy structure. Once impregnated with the idea of restoring the eye to its healthy state, it immediately proceeded to heal the eye. This is another example of how faith in the healing power of your subconscious can make you whole. So those are just such powerful, useful chapters. And, chapter 6 is healing, it explains healing. And the subconscious responds to mental images, repeated thoughts, and your emotional ideas. When you consistently feed it thoughts of wellness, peace, and vitality, it begins creating those conditions in your body. So your subconscious accepts whatever you believe, real or imagined. Thoughts are causes. Your physical condition are effects. Healing comes from replacing fear-based image with image of wholeness. Techniques include visualization, affirmation, relaxation, and faith-based imagery. Change the inner picture and the body follows. And so then in chapter 7, what he's saying is success is not accidental. It's a result of the thoughts you repeatedly impress on your subconscious. When you give your mind a clear picture of what you want, it begins to work and bring it to reality. The subconscious is goal driven. When given clear direction, success begins with a definite purpose and a mental blueprint. Positive self-talk creates subconscious cooperation. Negative creates resistance. So these techniques include the mental rehearsal, confidence statements, and replacing doubt with vision. And you attract it by becoming the person that you expect.
Yeah, that's there's so much there. I would say really go through and listen to this again. Um, there's yeah, how do you access it? And if it's new to you, it's coming through awareness, it's coming through meditation to get into that relaxed state and access your subconscious mind and then reprogram it from there. And it's so amazing how this can change your life. And we're all meant to know this and use it and build beautiful and better lives for ourselves.
And it's easy to talk about and read it in books, but I know as far as the healing power that it does work because I used to have some difficulty with depression and I took medication and I don't take any of that medication at all anymore. And so, but I'm not saying it's easy, but it took work to get off of the medication with a doctor's assistance and changing thinking and meditation and making a decision that I
Oh
was going
yes.
to change.
Yeah. That's what I was going to bring up too, right? Nothing's going to change without a decision. And we don't have as many problems as we have decisions to make, right? And so, and getting clear about what you really want, but not what you think you can get or what you think you want because of what other people, family and friends have conditioned you to maybe think you want, right? So that takes clearing your mind and being aware of that and then really, really what do you want in your heart of hearts and asking yourself that.
For sure, for sure. And that's part of what Alexis and I help you do and teach because you do need to learn how to structure your routines and learn the habits and apply the principles and write it down. It's so important. Bob used to always say, write down your goal. And sometimes your goal changes because you don't know yourself as well as you think you do.
It's very true, very true. And Susan and I would love to help you uh, do this, write down your goal, get clear about what you want. We have so much to offer and help you with. So please reach out to us through the frequency shift. We have Instagram, webpage, and all that. So we can't wait to see you all again here on the frequency shift. And everybody be well until next time.
Thank you. Bye bye.